So now we will be looking into the provisions of Farman of 1717. The provisions of Farman of 1717. So in what way they are exploitative? In what way they are exploitative? In what way they actually led to the in what way they actually led to the Battle of Plassey, right? So this first provision is related to Bengal province. So the provision. So the first provision says that. So to whatever the amount, or to whatever the volume of trade in Bengal province. So the British East India Company was allowed to trade in Bengal province without any customs duty, without any taxes, for an annual payment of rupees 3,000. So if British East India Company pays an annual payment of rupees 3,000, then it can trade in Bengal province without any custom duties. That means it is not limited to certain volume of trade. It is not limited to certain volume of trade. So whatever the amount of trade that the East India Company undertakes in Bengal province, all that will be exempted from the duties. All that will be exempted from the custom duties for a mere payment of rupees 3,000. So this was the very exploitative provision in Farman of 1717, and this was the direct what we call reason for the Battle of Plassey. Direct reason for the Battle of Plassey. So the second provision is related to Hyderabad region and Gujarat region. So in a similar fashion, so in Hyderabad or in Gujarat, East India Company can trade to whatever the amount of trade without restricting on the volume of trade. It can trade without any duties for an annual payment of rupees 10,000. Likewise, in Bengal province, it was rupees 3,000. For Gujarat and Hyderabad, it was 10,000 rupees. If the East India Company pays rupees 10,000, then it can trade in Hyderabad and Gujarat without any limit on the volume of trade. It can trade to any amount duty free. Right. So the first provision, second provision. So to make sure the first provision, second provision workable, so there was a issuance of, British could issue dastaks. We will be discussing what are these dastaks. So these are nothing but trade permits, allowing their goods to pass without any inspection or taxation. So here, just look into it. Right. For example, I am talking about Bengal province. So this is a checkpoint. Here a person, let us assume he is a trade inspector. So he checks all the goods passing this gate or this particular place, and he taxes the goods based on the volume of consignment. Based on the volume of consignment, he taxes the goods. Okay. So for example, he is A, B, C, right? So A is holding the consignment of British East India Company. B is an Indian merchant, right? B is an Indian merchant. C is also Indian merchant, right? So this is a check post. He is a trade inspector. Let us assume. So here this consignment belongs. This consignment was carried by person A, person B, and person C. Person A belongs to British East India Company. That means all the trade all the trade items in this consignment are belong to British East India Company. This B is Indian merchant, C is Indian merchant. So in order to distinguish which items or which consignments are belong to British East India Company and which are not. So British East India Company trade in Bengal province after 1717 Farman was duty free. There were no taxes imposed because the British agreed to pay rupees 3,000 per annum. So all the goods, all the consignments of the British East India Company will be taxed at zero. There will be no taxation. So in order to make this workable, in order to make this implemented, there is a system like Dastak. It is nothing but a trade permit certificate. A trade permit certificate signed by British official, also contains the emblem of British. So it is nothing but a certificate, a paper document. Likewise, we are using to nowadays the trade permit documents. So likewise, there is a dastak which actually use it to identify the British goods. If there is a sticker or a dastak that is attached to this person, I mean this consignment, then this person recognizes this as a British East India Company goods. So there will be no taxation. So there will be rupees 0. So here for this consignment, for example, rupees 100, rupees 100. So he will, I mean, the A will go through this trading post without paying any taxes. B has to pay rupees 100. C has to pay rupees 100. Got my point? So dastaks are used to identify the British goods. Dastaks are issued by the British officials, and they are stickered or they are attached to the British consignments. And whenever a trade inspector inspects that consignment, and if he finds a dastak, he lets that person get passed through this gate without paying any taxes. This was the system established under 1717 Farman. So what happened here? Until this point, it is okay. It is exploitative in nature. We know that it is exploitative. I mean, the 1717 Farman is an exploitative provisions are there. That is fine. The Dastak system is also fine. British could trade in Bengal province to whatever the volume it wants by paying a mere rupees 3,000 rupees. That is fine. Till that point, that is fine. But this Dastak system, the British officials misused Dastak system. Dastak system. In what way they misuse actually? So their goods were taxed at 0 rupees. Until this point, it is okay. But they actually created false or illegal dastaks and sold to Indian merchants. At a discounted price. Got my point? For example, here person B, person C are Indian merchants. They have to pay if they want to get passed through this trading post or this check post. They have to pay rupees 100 and rupees 100. So they discounted this rupees 100. For example, say rupees 50. For rupees 50, they will issue a fake or illegal. So it is illegal from the perspective of the Farman of 1717, but it is not recognizable by this person. If he finds a dastak, he will let that consignment go through without paying any taxes. By using this loophole in the system, they actually issued fake dastaks to the Indian merchants, and they replicate. I mean, they actually made the Indian consignment or Indian goods look like British goods. And this person, now what happens? For example, if you say this person B is involved in an agreement with the company official, and he bought a dastak by rupees 50. By paying rupees 50, he bought a dastak. So whenever a dastak is attached to the consignment, so the rupees 50 will, I mean rupees 100 will go to rupees 0. That means for this check post, this person B also now pays nothing. But to the company official, he has paid rupees 50. Earlier, without a dastak, he has to pay rupees 100. But with dastak, he has to pay 50 to the company, East India Company official. So in a way, this system is beneficial to person B also. For person B also, this system is it is a kind of beneficial only, right? So earlier he has to pay rupees 100 for his consignment to get passed through here. But now, by purchasing a dastak from a British East India Company official for a discounted price, for example, say rupees 50, if he bought a dastak and attached it to his consignment, then here he has to pay rupees 0, nothing. So whatever the amount that rupees 50 that is paid to the company official will be only the charges. So earlier he has to pay rupees 100. Now within rupees 50, he can be able to pass through here. So by this means, not only the British trade, but also the Indian merchants trade, that is made non-taxable. I mean, zero taxable. So zero taxes, no taxes were being paid even by the company even by the Indian merchants by purchasing the dastaks from the company officials. In this way, the company officials misused the dastak system. So just remember the concept. We will be coming to the Battle of Plassey a while from now. So this is the background, and the misuse of dastak system is the main and the prime reason for the onset of the Battle of Plassey. Sorry, yes, Battle of Plassey.